Well, 23 minutes past the hour now, and this morning's Faces of Faith, an emotional clash of religion and politics on Capitol Hill, took place last month during controversial hearings held by the House Committee on Homeland Security, the first in a series of panels to examine the so-called radicalization in the American Muslim community. Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison, a Muslim American, told the committee about a fellow Muslim who died in the Twin Towers on 9/11. Take a listen.
Mohammed Salman Hamdani was a fellow American who gave his life for other Americans. His life should not be identified as just a member of an ethnic group or just a member of a religion, but as an American who gave everything for his fellow Americans.
We get some reaction to the poignant testimony this morning from two filmmakers. The executive producer, Rashid Ghazi, and he's in D.C. with us, and the producer, Ash-har in Chicago. We'll talk to both of them in just a moment. They put together a documentary that hits home at the topic addressed during that congressional hearing. The film they put together is called Fordson, Faith, Fasting, and Football. The film follows a predominantly Arab American high school football team in Dearborn, Michigan, trying to gain acceptance after September 11th.
Your patriotism is always in question. It's always in question.
I see myself on TV, and it says, is this an act of terrorism with a question mark?
There is Ali Husaiki. He is currently in an Ohio jail with Osama Sabi Abu Hassan.
His name is Ali and his friend's name is Osama. Of course it's going to be discriminated against.
We've been called many names. We've been called an Islamic school, an Arabic school. We've been called Hezbollah High School.
Camel jockey, damn Arab.
Towel head, sand.
Ugly words and hate. And it's real hate. You can feel it.
This is an American high school. This is an American high school with people that just happen to be Muslim.
You guys can call us whatever you want, but on the football field, it's time for football, no matter what religion you are.
Knock them down, make a play.
Who's gonna answer the call?
Again, the executive producer, Rashid Ghazi, here with me. He's in D.C. Let me ask you first here, what were you going for in this documentary in the first place? What was the idea behind it?
Well, I first heard about the story about these kids who are mainly Arab American playing for a public high school back in 2003 and thought it was fascinating that they were fasting and dedicated to their religion, but dedicated to the all-American sport of football. And what we were going for was really to tell a story about Americans, whether they be Arab Americans or not. We thought it was interesting, fascinating, and we also felt that Arab Americans and Muslims in the media are generally mistyped and stereotyped, so this story could kind of tell a story about a community that not only has a religion and a faith that they follow and a culture, but also is very American as well.
And Usher,
we thought
yeah, go ahead there, Usher.
No, we thought football would be a phenomenal way to tell that story. So that's kind of what we were going for.
And yeah, I was bringing in Ash-har here, who's in Chicago, a producer of this film as well. He just spoke there about this all-American sport and all-American kids, quite frankly, who happen to be Arab. Do these kids feel like they're all American kids?
Well, it's really interesting. If you talk to some of these kids, and some of them have been born and raised here, some of them, their families have been here for generations, and yet there is this divide. I mean, most of the kids that we profiled were 4th or 5th graders when 9/11 happened, but literally they don't know a world before 9/11. And, you know, as little as they had to do with that, if anything, which they question, I mean, there is this sense that they are other than American. They feel like that when they leave Dearborn, Michigan. But in essence, when you get to know these kids, they're like any other all-American kid that could be living in your neighborhood.
And Usher, on that point, you said they feel like they are something other than all-American kids. Is that something within them, or that's just a reaction to how they are viewed and treated?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, you know, what happened on 9/11 literally changed the way this community was viewed here in the United States. And, you know, the media even descended on Dearborn. A lot of people that we talked to didn't quite understand what was that connection. They didn't understand that just because that they were Arab Americans or Muslim Americans, that they should have any other sort of insight on what happened on 9/11 other than that they were affected as all Americans were by that tragic event. And so there's this sense in that community that, you know, while they are Americans, they're looked at as other. And this is something that's externalized partially, but also it's something that comes from within them as well.
Rashid, I heard you all had a tough time trying to get the school board to go along with this and allow you all to do it. What was their concern?
Well, I think the concern was we started the process back in 2004. It took us about 6 years. The old coach didn't want us to do it. The new coach was a little apprehensive, and then the school board was apprehensive. I think the way that the community's been stereotyped in the media in the U.S. scared them. They didn't know who we were. They thought they've gotten a lot of publicity about fasting and football and kind of want to just continue with their normal lives. So it really, we got the coaches finally to say yes in 2009. The school board said no. So I ended up driving all night to Michigan for an emergency trip. And once they found out who we were, what we have done in our past, and the story that we wanted to tell, they opened up their school to us. And I think the results were phenomenal. One of our photographers, Mike Seamus, worked in Dearborn for 20 years, and he said in 12 days of shooting with us, he learned more about the community than he had in 20 years shooting for everybody else.
Can this help, Usher? We seem to have, whether it's congressional hearings or interviews or whatever, panels are put together, and we try to help people understand the Muslim American community. And if you can hear for me in about 20, 30 seconds, because I got to run, can this film help because we're showing a different light, an all-American game, and quite frankly, all-American kids who happen to be Muslim?
That's our hope, and we think it can. I mean, I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago for the Society of Professional Journalists talking about covering Islam. And even though we went through this panel, we talked for an hour and a half, people there said to us, well, we still don't understand who Muslim Americans are. No. Well, this film hopes to change that, and I think that it will.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you both being here. Rashid Ghazi, again, the executive producer of it, and Ash-har Qureshi.